Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
It's fitting, in a lecture that goes under the banner of 21st century enlightenment, to begin with Adam Smith. For it was Smith, philosopher, man of letters, economist and pillar in the 18th century enlightenment, who breathed life into the idea of self-interest as a motivating force in society. In The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, he argued that man had a propensity to truck, barter and exchange. He told us it was the self-interest of the baker, the brewer and the butcher that would provide our supper, and that mankind was distinguished from the beasts, not by the gift of stewardship over the earth, nor through being made in God's image, but through our ability to exchange. The Enlightenment, of course, sought to do away with the dead hand of religion, looking forward to a better society, one driven by progress and illuminated by science. But it was still a religious age, and Smith's writing is a tribute to the unintended consequences and the power of indirect causes. In the 19th century, economics took on the shape of mathematics. Inspired by the heat equations of physics, the so-called marginalist revolutionaries argued that the diminishing marginal utility of a good could be calculated arithmetically. So the stage was set for modern economics when, in 1932, Lionel Robbins, then head of the economics department at the London School of Economics, dreamed of an economics that could offer a single, unified theory of human action. Economics, he wrote, is the science which studies human behaviour as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. Such ends might involve work and leisure, or sustenance and sleep. What matters is all are purchased with time and most with labour, and that mankind does not have a sufficiency of either of these things. To my mind, there is something theological about any universal explanation, and Robbins' economics is no different. We have been, as he put it, turned out of paradise. It seems that economics is the theology of this post-lapsarian man. In the work of the formidable contemporary philosopher Daniel Dennett, we see cost-benefit analysis elevated to a general principle of practical reasoning, through which evolution operates as life forms compare costs and benefits of one action with another. In Dennett's work, or in the wave of popular books explaining the world around us in terms of cost-benefit trade-offs, economics offers no less than the meaning of life. By such an account, we are all entrepreneurs of ourselves. We must understand every aspect of our person as a future revenue stream. When deciding to work or to rest, we must weigh up the costs and the benefits of each action. Our decision to invest in ourselves, whether by education or through a gym subscription or even cosmetic surgical enhancements, must be based purely on our estimate of the future returns available on that investment. We become a productive machine, valued in the same way as any other business asset. Our decisions, choices, and life plans become factors in a perpetual cost-benefit analysis that we must focus upon ourselves. The 18th century Enlightenment succeeded in throwing off the weight of religion, it is true. But as this rational calculating agent becomes the centrepiece of policy endeavour and private action, it seems to me that we have found ourselves another master. Now, none of this would matter were economics no more than a manner of speaking or a mode of analysis. But economic ways of thinking leak into the real world through the way that we talk and the tools that we use. Often, we simply do not notice that we are being economic. The complexity of our modern world forces us to rely upon a multitude of devices that do the economic work for us. In the supermarket, for example, a multitude of competing claims, quality, taste, affect, even the circumstances of the goods production, are rendered down to a single label specifying what counts and what does not. Of course, the voice that shouts loudest from the label is that of cost, and we must trade it off against all other concerns. dealing with intensive farming, say, or indentured sweatshop labour is no longer a matter of moral outrage, thou shalt not buy this product, but a finely graduated consumer choice. Supermarkets offer established hierarchies of labelling where improvements in the quality of the husbandry or of a living wage are reflected in increasing prices. And consumers are free to establish the cost of their own conscience. In the supermarket, even moral virtue has an economic dynamic. The last 3 decades have seen whole sections of our society recast as economic, and their participants as these entrepreneurial, rational economic agents. Take higher education. 20-something years ago, when I was a student, university fees and maintenance were paid by the government on the presumption that educated citizens are better citizens. Now, of course, students must borrow to pay fees and to support themselves, the justification being that they, and only they, will reap the benefits and must therefore shoulder the costs. This dogma, and it is a dogma, of our higher education planning is self-evidently false. We all benefit from good teachers, from nurses, civil servants, research scientists, chaplains, bureaucrats, administrators, town planners, sports coaches, and so forth. The list is endless, all of whom have received a university education, and many of whom will be hard-pressed to recoup the fees and the living costs that they have incurred. And those are just the lucky ones who actually secure a job on graduation. But that's an aside, for this talk at least. What matters are the consequences of such a change. These fees are just one part, perhaps a symptom as much of the cause, of the broader repackaging of education as a saleable good, a corporate export industry. The argument is clear. Making students into consumers will somehow make universities better. It will also, as any leftish critic will point out, open up huge swathes of virgin territory as profit opportunities for service firms and the holders of capital. But if students have to pay fees, we are told, a market will spontaneously arise as universities compete with one another for their customers. Access to higher education will be determined by the individual's own